In Raphael's The School of Athens, there are four groups of people. In the middle are Plato and Aristotle, the center of philosophy. And to the left is Socrates and his group. To the front, we see two groups of people. The group on the left is the group of mathematicians, and the group on the right is the group of astronomers. Amongst the left group, this man stands out the most. He's Pythagoras. The surprising thing is that Pythagoras has something to do with a murder in the Mediterranean. And it all happened because of the number root 2. Let's talk about that today. Pythagoras was born on the Greek island of Samos. It is said that Pythagoras was heavily influenced by Thales and Anaximander of Miletus. As a young man, he gained a lot of knowledge by traveling to Persia, India, Babylon, and Egypt, the most developed civilization of the time. After about 20 years of traveling, he founded a school in Croton, an island in southern Italy. The people who followed Pythagoras formed the Pythagorean school, but rather it was more like a religious cult. They deified Pythagoras. There were stories about how Pythagoras had a golden thigh and how he bit a poisonous snake to death. He gave lectures to wild animals, and when he crossed the river greeted him by his name. There were strange prohibitions in the Pythagorean cult. Famously, the members were not allowed to eat fava beans. They were also not to poke fires with swords or look back once they're out the house. But these prohibitions may not be so strange. Some explain that it's because Pythagoras had an illness that made him anemic when he ate fava beans. And some think the prohibitions are symbolic. For example, don't poke fires with swords means don't provoke an angry person. And don't look back when you're out the house means don't linger on your past. The Pythagoreans believed that numbers were the source of all things. They attached meaning to the numbers themselves. For example, 1 is the source of creation since it creates all other numbers, but is not divisible by any other number. 2 is 1 plus 1. It has the dualistic quality of conflict, contrast, and reciprocity. And 3 is the principle of all things, because if you multiply all the numbers up to 3, 1 times 2 times 3 is 6. And if you add all the numbers up to 3, 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. 4 represents everything in the universe. This is because a year is the cycle of the 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And everything consists of 4 elements: water, fire, earth, and air. And the basis of knowledge is the 4 academics: arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. And since 5 is the sum of the even number 2 and the odd number 3, it represents union and harmony. And 6 is a perfect number, whose divisors added together equals the number itself. So it means perfection, permanence, health, and balance. And 7 is the only number that cannot be created by multiplying or dividing other numbers in the range of 1 to 10. So it means disconnection. And since 8 is a cube, it represents stability, immobility, balance, and rules. And since 9 forms the boundary between the numbers from 1 to 8 and 10, it is called a horizontal line, and symbolizes crossing and passing. And 10 was considered to be a sacred number, symbolizing the universe, the sky, and the only rule of nature that holds the universe together and organizes the laws of nature. Up to this point, Pythagoras may just seem like a man who worshipped numbers, but his true value is in that he saw numerical relationships in everything. There are numerical relationships in rocks falling. There are numerical relationships in water flowing. And there are numerical relationships in the movements of the sun and the moon. This is not different from our thoughts today. Scientists explain the nature mathematically. All the physical quantities of force, speed, mass, time, and space are represented with numbers. And the relationship between these numbers are the laws of physics. Rocks falling can be explained with Newton's dynamics. Water flowing is explained with hydrodynamics. And the movements of celestial bodies are explained by gravity and the centrifugal force. Pythagoras was the first to think that there are laws of physics in the nature. Not only this, but Pythagoras was well versed in music as well. One day, Pythagoras was passing by a blacksmith. He found that some sounds were pleasant to listen to, but some sounds were uncomfortable to hear. Pythagoras discovered that chords occurred in accordance to the ratio of frequencies between two strings which made the sounds. He found that when the ratio of a frequency to another is 1 to 2, there is an octave difference. And when the ratio is 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, it produces a harmonious sound. Therefore, the question of what is harmonious or not can be viewed as a question of numerical equations. That is how he came up with the Pythagorean scale. Pythagoras went one step further from here. He believed the orbits of the celestial bodies make sounds of their own. For example, the Earth makes the fa and the mi sounds. Mars makes do and so. And Jupiter makes mi. And these sounds form harmony and music. The music of celestial bodies. This is the harmony of the spheres. Not only this, but the Pythagoreans discovered the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is that in a right triangle, the length of the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the lengths of the remaining sides squared. It's said that Pythagoras offered 200 cows to the gods as sacrifice after proving the Pythagorean theorem. But now, Pythagoras had a problem. Irrational numbers have been discovered. Using a right triangle whose two sides have the length of 1, they discover root 2. An irrational number is a number that cannot be written as a ratio of two integers. The square root of 2 is 1.41421,35623,73095. To the Pythagoreans, who believed that there is a mathematical order behind everything and considered it sacred, the discovery of irrational numbers that cannot be explained as a ratio was a huge challenge. So it's said that the existence of irrational numbers was made a secret. But there's no secret you can hide forever. Hippasus, a follower of Pythagoras, revealed this to the outside world. So it's said that Pythagoras had him drowned at sea. That is the murder of the square root of 2. Hippasus is the only victim in human history who was murdered for mathematics. What happened to the Pythagoreans? Their influence grew bigger and bigger. They even began to meddle in the politics of Croton, until the politicians of Croton got rid of Pythagoras and his students. Pythagoras had two faces. One is Pythagoras as a religious cult leader who deified himself, and the other is Pythagoras as a philosopher, a mathematician, and a musician. He discovered the Pythagorean theorem and explained everything through numerical relationships. He connected the visible world with the invisible numbers. Pythagoras' attempt to explain the visible world through the invisible world was handed down to Plato. Plato explained the world of phenomena, which can be viewed through the senses, with the world of ideas, which can be viewed through reason. This tradition went on to the scientific revolution, the scientific revolution to the technological revolution, and the technological revolution to the industrial revolution. In a way, Pythagoras is at the root of modern industrial civilization. Let's wrap up. First, Pythagoras was a man with two faces. One was Pythagoras as a rational mathematician, and the other was Pythagoras as a very irrational cult leader. Second, Pythagoras said that the source of all things was numbers, because there were numerical relationships between everything in the universe. Third, in that sense, Pythagoras is a scientist according to modern definitions, who tried to find laws of physics in nature.